So, are INFJs impulsive? No, seriously, I'm asking you. Are you impulsive? That's the question of the day. Are you an INFJ and are you impulsive? Hi, I'm Annie, and I'm less of a miserable cow than I used to be. I'm feeling about 5% miserable today. I'm just highly neurotic. I don't think we're ever going to get to zero. Are you an INFJ and are you impulsive? I've been thinking about this. I think there's a whole range, that some INFJs are going to be more impulsive than other INFJs. I've heard that in general, INFJs tend to not be too impulsive, but I think some of them can be. The MBTI is a very simplified framework, and that's okay. It's just a starting point. It very simply categorizes people into these 16 different personality types. But first of all, every single one of us has within us all of these traits, It's just that some of them are more naturally dominant than others. And also at times, some of those traits that you might not describe as innate within yourself will emerge and make themselves known. We contain all these things, It's all on a continuum. We contain multitudes, if you will. We also evolve and change as people. So some of these inferior functions can be strengthened over time. I think it's really interesting to cross-reference MBTI personality types with other personality tests, like the 5-factor test, the Big Five Ocean test. So that's a test, in case you don't know, that measures 5 different personality traits that are contained within the acronym OCEAN. So it's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So you take 100 INFJs, and some of them will have higher conscientiousness and lower. Some are more extroverted than others. Many tend to be highly neurotic, more on the higher end of neuroticism. As far as I can tell from my research, INFJs can be moderately conscientious. And impulsiveness is a trait that falls under that conscientiousness umbrella. So first of all, let's consider some traits that are underneath that conscientiousness umbrella. And I'm going to tell you briefly about my subjective experience with some of these traits, and you can consider quietly to yourself or comment below how you resonate with each of these traits. So my conscientiousness score was 77%, which isn't super low and it's not really, really high. I would describe that as moderately high. So let's consider the traits that fall under the umbrella of conscientiousness. And I'll tell you briefly about my subjective experience with each of these traits. And you can consider quietly to yourself or comment below how these traits resonate with you. People with high conscientiousness are careful. I would say, yes, that describes me. You can consider that word careful in a lot of different ways. I mean, am I detail-oriented? Not particularly. I am somewhat careful in my work. I'm not a risk taker, so I am careful with my body, not a skydiver. People with high conscientiousness are less impulsive. And like I said, I am not very impulsive except for when I am. Diligent. Yes, I am diligent. Efficient. Yes, I am efficient. I love efficiency, in fact. I think it's beautiful. I like to have the right tool for the job, and I like to do the job the right way, in an efficient manner, improving the workflow. I just love efficiency. It's like I kind of geek out on it because it feels so good to do a job the right way. Am I self-disciplined? Yes, I am. I'm dependable. Yes, I'm a massage therapist. So I've heard that massage therapists can be flaky. Like sometimes they don't show up to appointments and stuff. That's not me. I show up to appointments. I'm absolutely on time, reliable. Now, if you call me on the phone last minute and say, hey, I'm in a jam. Can you stop what you're doing right now and come help me? That's tough, because I'm a planner, and that was not part of my overall vision for my day. So I may not be dependable in that manner. I might not drop what I'm doing and come help you. I'm kind of selfish that way. But if we have a plan, an appointment for me to help you next Tuesday, I'm there, and I'm not going to cancel, and I'm not going to flake on you. I'll be there. Am I neat? I am neat when it counts, and I'm not particularly neat. But where it counts, yes, because I want my life to function smoothly. So maybe it's a learned trait. I'm neat because being neat allows me to accomplish things. and it makes it so that my life doesn't fall apart. Am I systematic? Oh yeah, because like I said, I love the beauty of efficiency. So if you take a system and you keep perfecting it over time until it's like really tight, I mean, even the way that I do the dishes, it's very systematic, and I do it in a logical way because it saves me time, it makes sense, it's beautiful. Am I thorough? Not particularly. I have a hard time with attention to detail. So for example, in editing, I'm really good at style editing. Like if I'm, reading an essay, my style editing is awesome. I can, say a lot about style and word choice and flow. But when it comes to copy editing, picking out grammatical mistakes and spelling errors, no. Before I was a massage therapist, I was a residential house cleaner. And I would say that was a weakness, was attention to detail. And my clients loved me. They said, you're doing an awesome job. But I feel like it took me considerable effort to catch all those details. And because I am weak in extroverted sensing and I do tend to miss sensory details, it's because of that I implemented a beautiful system that was sort of fail-proof, to where I didn't need to be super detail-oriented. It was just like the system that I designed would catch all that stuff. So when you clean a house, you do top to bottom, you do left to right. So even if you're not detail oriented, the system kind of catches everything. You're not going to miss, a smudge on the glass because you're being systematic. Even if you're not so good at noticing details, those things generally still get caught. Anyway, life of a self-employed house cleaner. I really enjoyed doing that work. Okay, underneath, another thing that falls under conscientiousness is conformist. No, that's not me at all. I don't go out of my way to be rebellious or different, but I question certain things. I'm not one to jump on the bandwagon. And then perfectionistic is another term that's under that umbrella. Yes, I am. I'm the kind of perfectionist that can become paralyzed by perfectionism. I think many INFJs can relate to that. So moving on to impulsiveness specifically. There are a few areas where I do have what I would consider to be character flaws related to impulsiveness. The main one is living beyond my means. Now, this isn't difficult to do because I don't make very much money. So it's kind of tricky to say because if somebody who had a little bit more money than me, was a little bit more comfortable, displayed some of these traits, they wouldn't seem so glaringly impulsive because it's okay. Maybe you overspent a little, but overall you're doing okay. So here's the thing. I don't spend all my money on drugs and hookers. I spend my money on art supplies. So it's sort of this really idealistic impulsiveness. For example, last week I woke up in the morning and just out of nowhere, I knew that I was going to go buy a new guitar. So I got this one here, this kind of semi-hollow body jazz electric guitar. Now, here's my thinking. The decision was impulsive in the sense that it sort of came out of nowhere. And once I got it in my mind, I knew I was going to do it. I know myself, and I know that the thought I'm going to buy a guitar today had this quality that it was inevitable. There was no point in fighting it, So I go into my cash drawer, I'm counting my cash, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to make this work? I'm going to buy a guitar today. I know I'm going to do this, but how am I going to pull this off? But I also had these really rational reasons for believing that that was a good idea. I'm 42 years old. I've been playing guitar my whole life, off and on. I used to have an electric guitar like this. Guitars come and go. Over the course of my life, I've had many guitars and I've let some of them go. But I've been wanting one like this because I have a Fender twin reverb amp that I got just as a trade. I traded for it. I'm a massage therapist, so I traded for this amp because I love tube amps. I used to have a tube amp years ago. That's another piece of equipment that I got rid of at some point. And then I had the opportunity to get this tube amp. Well, it's been sitting in the corner gathering dust, and that's irresponsible. You don't have such a wonderful, beautiful tube amp and allow it to gather dust in the corner of your home. And also part of my thinking was, I'm 42 years old. I've wanted a guitar like this for a few years. So what am I waiting for? I mean, am I going to wait until I'm 56? Like, my life is happening right now. If I go out and buy that guitar today, then I'm going to love it and play it and appreciate it. I'm really going to use it. And that's how I feel about my art supplies. Sometimes if I get an idea for a project in my mind, I will move mountains to pull that off. Like, I opened an Etsy store last year and I make these pillows with photographs printed on them. I didn't used to know how to even do this process at all. I taught myself this process. I learned how to open an Etsy store, all this stuff. There was a lot involved, a lot of energy and focus involved in opening this Etsy store. And that's where my conscientiousness superpower kind of comes into play. That when I get an idea that I'm attached to, I have extreme determination to follow through. So I started from nothing and now I have this Etsy store. It's just when it comes to creative ideas, I can be impulsive because I will spend all my money and money that I don't have on art supplies to bring the project into fruition. However, all of these traits would seem admirable if you actually had the money, if you weren't overspending. It's only considered impulsive because I don't have the money. And this guitar was not particularly expensive. It's a used guitar, it's what I could afford, and it's okay. It needs some intonation work. The fat E, the low E string is, it's just not holding tune very well. I changed the strings and I put flat wound strings on it, and a lot of times when you do that, you need to get your guitar adjusted to make sure it's sounding as good as it possibly can. So I'm impulsive about art supply purchases. I've always been that way. That is always where all of my money is gone. And one other area where I can be impulsive is with frustration and anger. I just lose it. And I don't lash out at other people. I just feel anger or rage or frustration so intensely that I need to destroy things. This is very unpleasant. It's not cool. This is most definitely a character flaw. But I just get so frustrated sometimes that it's just this energy inside of me that I cannot control, and I boil over. So I'm hot-tempered, but it's not directed at other people. It's just like I have to break something. I have to. I need a release. It's not pretty. So anyway, if I score 77% on this conscientiousness, maybe the remaining 23% is my impulsiveness. I don't know. But I'm curious, are you an INFJ, and how impulsive are you? And how does this play out in your life? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Let's get to know each other.